everybody, welcome back to Great Northwest Weaponry. This is Thomas. We're here at the war front for our first official demo video here. We're going to be taking a look at a walkthrough of the evolution of the rifle model 1898, the Gewehr98. And we've taken a look at a number of these guns already. Two of them belong to me, but we're going to try and fill in the gaps with this video here, starting out with my 1913 Mauser Oberndorf Gewehr98. Now again, this is one that we've done a full walkthrough of. As most of you are aware, the Gewehr98 was the official Imperial German rifle of the First World War, designed by Paul Mauser. Design kicked off in 1895, was officially adopted in 98. And this rifle would see service all the way through the First World War and be produced clear up until the Versailles Treaty ceased production effectively, but we'll get to that. It's interesting, the Kar98b that we'll be getting to a couple rifles down the line here effectively is still a Gewehr98. They just couldn't call it as such without getting in some degree of trouble with France and Britain. But we did a full demo on the Gewehr98 in the not too distant past, so probably won't be getting super deep into this one. And as we go, we've got a total of 6 rifles that we're going to be taking a look at and talking about what little isn't filled in between here. For one, there is an early version of the K98, the K98A, usually represented with a capital A, that we don't have an example of. What we've got here is a K98AZ, and we will be going to that here in just a moment. But I'm actually going to transition. The earliest model of the Kar98, or Carbiner 1898, was the Kar98A, again represented with a capital A. These would look much like what you see before us here, except a little shorter, with no hook and no attachment point for a bayonet. The term AZ seen on this example actually indicates that this has a stacking rod and a bayonet attachment point. The A was, or the original Kar98A with the capital A, was only produced from 1902 to 1905. The reason it was done away with in 1905 is they deemed that the Spitzer cartridge they just started development in 1904 made the rifle kick entirely too hard. The recoil was a problem and muzzle flash was as well. So they put the carbine project on hold, and these were designed for the same reasons that carbines have been developed by pretty much anybody ever. They intended to have something shorter for cavalry or for troops that were not frontline and needing the full-length rifle. Now, in 1908, the AZ began production. I have written out what this name is supposed to be. It is absolutely absurd. One of those brutal German words, Aufplans und Zusammensetzverrichtung. Zusammensetzverrichtung. Something to that effect. I don't speak German well. I know a handful of words, but that is, again, just another one of those beastly German words. But from my understanding, this means Kar98 with stacking rod and bayonet lug. The AZ would be produced all the way until the end of the First World War in tandem with the Gewehr98. They were favored by, obviously, cavalry, and more or less were issued to shock troops. Any sort of an assault force, the Kar98AZ was preferred over the Gewehr98 as it was shorter, lighter, just an overall handier rifle. This one that we have in front of us here is a 1918 Erfurt, and I believe this one belongs to my friend Drew, who is back behind the wall working on some stuff here in the store, as we're filming this while there's no other customers in here at the moment. From here, go on to the Versailles Treaty, moving on to the Kar98b. Next rifle in the 98 evolution, we've got the Kar98b. Now this example, these were obviously a carbine in name only, and we'd already mentioned to a degree, but the reason for this is, as per the Versailles Treaty, Germany could no longer produce Gewehrs, rifles, so the designation of Kar98b was intended to skirt that by making a carbine. It's not a rifle, it's a short rifle. Don't worry about it. Even though carbines would be primarily what was used by everybody that wasn't Russian in World War II, but that notwithstanding, The only real difference between this and a Gewehr98 is they did away with the Langvisier, the roller coaster sight as it is more commonly called, and went with this tangent rear sight, of which is what they would stick with for the Kar98k. We've got a number of different steps in the evolution of the Kar98k that we'll be going to from here, but these would be the full length of the Gewehr98. The only real difference is the sight configuration and the downturned bolt handle. The original Gewehr98 had the straight bolt still, and again, the roller coaster sight. These were made either as a rebuilt Gewehr98 or they were purpose-built as a Kar98b. Production began in 1923 and carried on all the way until the adoption of the Kar98k in 1935. Around the same time that they adopted the Kar98b, the Kar98az would be redesignated as the Kar98a with a lowercase a. We'd already discussed the uppercase A being the first attempt at a carbine model of the 98. And I'm going to note also, if you guys hear any additional noise in here, again, this is a shop that we are in, so they're doing work in here. There may be some background noise, it just is what it is, but we definitely got some access to some really cool stuff. These 98Bs, you don't see these very often at all. But again, they would be primarily used during the Weimar era, 1923 to 1935 production. From my understanding, Hitler's personal guard actually carried the Kar98b and not the Kar98k. This example has Waffenamps, though it is a 1917 receiver, so this is definitely a rebuilt off of an original Gewehr98. Now, on to the Kar98k. First example of the Kar98k that we're going to be taking a look at here, and again we have three, and we're going to be looking at a lot of the different features of these, is my 1936 Irma S27. This has most of the early features except for, we've got one incorrect, the front barrel band. The solid front barrel band would be more often seen on a mid-war example, 1940, 1941. What would be more appropriate for this example would be an H-band, as what is seen on Drew's 1940 example seen here. And we'll be going back to this in a minute, because again, the Kar98 went through a lot of iterations. The Kar98k in particular, they saw service from 1935 to 1945, as well as production for that entire time span. This, again, very early one, doesn't even have actual Nazi eagles on it. Everything on this is the Weimar stick eagles. We went over this one extensively in a demo we did of it, specifically when I picked the rifle up a while back. I actually picked this rifle up here, oddly enough, but again, early features, no hood on the front sight. All these will have the same pattern of rear sight, and the plate in the side of the stock here for bolt takedown. Now I'm going to just kind of rotate through these. So there was my early example. Now this is a 1940 example that again belongs to Drew, and this one you can see has the hooded front sight. That is the only real difference between this one and mine, aside from again the front barrel band, the H band, of which this 1940 would be considered a transitional Kar98k, and you will see different features on these transitional examples depending on which company manufactured them. And again, the companies, we've gone over this in the past as well, but there are various codes, and finding a chart of what code means what is easy enough. They're widely available online. From here we go to one that we have definitely not seen anything quite like this. This example belongs to Lawrence, and this is a very minty Kriegsmodell or Kriegsmodel Kar98k. This is the late war example. I've heard some people call it like the last ditch Kar98k, as that term is more often applied to Arisakas and Nambus and other Japanese equipment, but this is the latest variation of the Kar98k there was. There's a couple of differences between this and the examples of mine and Drew's, in the early and mid-war examples. For one, you had the third pattern of front barrel band where it is just this stamped steel rather than a milled either H-band or block. No bayonet lug. This does still have the front sight hood, and the takedown disc is done away with in favor of a whole through this, they called these cap on steel butt plates, they call this a door knocker. Now this hole here is actually your takedown for your bolt instead of the plate seen on the early examples. This example is a BYF Mauser 1945, about as late as they come and about as desirable as they come as well. People will pay an absurd price for the Kriegs model of Kar98k. So that about completes our walkthrough here of the evolution of the rifle model 1898, the Gewehr 98 through Kriegs model 98k. I'd like to thank the guys at the Warfront for allowing me to use their rifles for this video. Definitely something that I've intended to do for a while, is a complete walkthrough of the evolution of these guns. And of course, you know, there's examples that we missed. We didn't go over sniper variations, for instance. It's something I'd like to do someday if I have access to those. But anyway, hope you all enjoyed the video. It's been Thomas with Great Northwest Weaponry, and I'll see you all next time.